Hello people, welcome you all. My name is Daniel and I'm here to present you about Windows Workflow Foundation. First, a quick introduction. Well, I am VP and Connected System Developer and I work as Technical Leader at TechResult. Well, let's check our agenda. So, why do we need a workflow platform? First of all, we need to understand that. And then, what's Workflow Foundation for? Why do we need Workflow Foundation? After that, the main concepts to work with Workflow Foundation. What do we need to understand? And finally, let's go over a demo and let's create some workflows. Let's work with Windows Workflow Foundation. So let's get started. So why do we need a workflow platform? Well, with a workflow platform, we can achieve more developer productivity. Why? What's that? Workflow technology provides a real-world abstraction. It's easier to create these abstractions working with a workflow technology. For instance, if you have a software that manages documents, probably you will have to create this abstraction inside your software. If you have document approval in your software, you will have to develop this abstraction. You will have to code this approval inside your software. With a workflow platform, it's easier to see that, to find these abstractions. And what are the workflow development challenges? Our workflow must be long-running and stateful. Let's continue with our example of workflow document approval. Well, you create a document and your manager must approve that. So when is he approving? Well, maybe you create today the document and he is on vacation and will be back within 2 weeks and then he will approve the document. Maybe he is on a business trip and will approve after a month. Maybe he will approve today, maybe tomorrow, you don't know. So that's why the workflow must be long running. What does it mean? It must run, it must be being executed until I execute the activity. It must be stateful. Why? I create today the document and then create the workflow to approve the document, and after a week my manager will approve the document. Well, in the exact moment that he's approving the document, the workflow must preserve the state that it had when I created. So that's why it must be stateful. It must preserve the state for a week, for a month, or whatever. And must provide transparency. What's that? Maybe that's one of the main benefits of working with a workflow. Why? Tracking workflows, you can monitor it. You can monitor workflow instances. So you can have a kind of workflow monitor and check how many instances do I have. Oh, I have 10 instances wait for an approval. So who must approve this document? Oh, this manager, but he's on vacation, so he's just approving in that date. So it's easier to understand how many instances do I have in which state of each instance. So what can I do with it? Monitor instances, I can understand my business. Okay, so what's Workflow Foundation for? Workflow Foundation meant to be a single workflow technology. So today, or now I build a workflow document approval, a software to work with documents. After a week, or my next project will be a support center software. My customers can enter there and chat with my employees, ask for advice, and these kinds of things. So I don't have to create a workflow platform now to support my document approval and then create another one to my support center software. I can have just one workflow platform that I use in all my software. And Workflow Foundation is an extensible API and framework. What does it mean? With Workflow Foundation is part of Microsoft.NET framework, and it have an API. I have some activities, and I have some methods, some functions to work with. But I can create my own services. I can create my own activities. That's why it's extensible. And workflow in the mainstream. If we analyze, most of the software we develop have a workflow inside. So now we will think about a software building the workflow. We will create a workflow explicitly. Before we always had built our workflows, but usually we did it putting snippets of code inside our software. Now we create explicit workflow. That's why workflow now is in the mainstream. So the main concepts. What's a workflow? Workflow is a set of activities to coordinate people or software. For instance, we have a document approval. What is a document approval? We create a document and you have to wait for a manager, for some people to approve this document. So this kind of workflow have people interaction. And maybe you can have a workflow to execute a system maintenance. What is that? Maybe every day, at the end of the day, you want to execute system maintenance in your server. First you execute a backup of some folders, then you check your system to see if have a virus or something like that. So this kind of flow doesn't need a people interaction. And all these activities are organized as a flow. And in Workflow Foundation we have two kinds of flows. As a sequence diagram, it's the most common, and it's like in the picture. You have a sequence of activities, and you know what's going to be executed in your flow. And you have a state diagram. It's another kind of workflow we can create. We have a set of states, and you define the transitions between states. Okay.